Jake and Lisa are 68 and 65 and are worried that a potential recession could devastate their $1 million retirement portfolio. Will their current investment strategy weather a recessionary storm? We'll give them a red, yellow, or green light assessment coming up next. Welcome to Rise in Retirement,
where it is our goal to optimize and simplify your financial plan.
I'm Jet.
And I'm Taco.
We are financial advisors at W.A. Smith Financial Group, a firm trusted by thousands of individuals and families. We work with people all over the United States, and our mission is to help you focus more on your life, worry less about your money. And today's case is a good one.
Yeah, our hypothetical scenario features Jake and Lisa, age 68 and 65. They've accumulated $1 million, that magic number that everybody's trying to get to there. They're retired. There's a little bit of market volatility happening, and they're worried about the big R word, the recession, that could derail their retirement plans. So we're going to talk through Jake and Lisa and see what can be done to make sure that their retirement is successful.
Yeah. And do they get a red, green, yellow light? What are we going to give them? You know, recession doesn't always directly correlate with down markets. I think most people just assume that it will. And that's probably the majority of the case. If we're in a recession, markets are probably acting a little wacky. It's important that you understand how your portfolio is going to perform when the shoe drops or when the big, cliff happens, because too often what we see is a lot of people talk about their risk exposure in the form of words. Well, I'm conservative. My advisor knows that. And ultimately the result ends up being something that they're not ready for. And so we're going to talk about what kind of protections do Jake and Lisa have? What small, subtle changes to the way they operate could make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is over the course of a retirement, markets are going to go down sometimes, right? So this is going to be a great video. And if you find this topic today helpful or relevant to your situation, make sure you like, subscribe, comment below so that we can connect you and all of people just like you to educate you here on retirement topics.
So Jake and Lisa, let's paint the picture. Jake's 68, Lisa's 65. Mentioned they're retired. They got about $1 million saved. Of that $1 million, $900,000 is qualified. That just means IRAs, rollovers from previous employer-sponsored accounts qualified. They have not yet paid tax on these dollars, so it's tax deferred. They've got an income goal of $8,500 gross per month, meaning if they've got $8,500 a month coming into the bank account on a monthly basis, they feel pretty good. They can live happy. They can do all the things that they want to do. 3,500 of that 8,500 they need will be coming from Social Security. And so they've got a gap of about $5,000 gross per month.
Okay. So $60,000, 6% withdrawal rate, ultimately is what it looks like right now. They have two kids that are doing really well. Kids have no expectations of inheritance. They want their parents to live their life and have fun, right?
Yeah.
Jake and Lisa want to leave something. They don't want to totally change their lifestyle in retirement, but they would love to see money go to the kids, right? If there's anything left over.
Not a priority.
Right.
Yeah.
You said a lot of people put their risk into words.
Yeah.
What Jake and Lisa have is a moderately conservative self-assessment on their risk tolerance. I
want to stop for a second. I want you, as we're talking here, think about what your definition of moderately conservative is. And then think about what your advisor's definition could be, or what my definition or Andrew's could be, or what your brother's could be. And that's what I mean by that.
The reality is you're talking two words that could all have a different meaning to every person.
Mm-hmm.
Conservative. I've seen conservative be, I don't want to lose any money to some people. I've seen conservative be, I want blue chip, good dividend paying stocks, which
that have risk exposure,
which have a lot of risk exposure. Moderate, same thing, right?
Yep.
And so you put the two words together, and quite frankly, I don't know what Jake and Lisa have or think that they have.
We'll get into that.
What we do know is they don't want to have to, reduce their income distribution, their monthly expenses, and they're quite frankly, they're worried about a recession that could impact that.
Yeah. So markets get a little dicey. You start seeing in the news headlines the word recession gets thrown around. Will we have one? Is it coming? How will it affect your money? And that's starting to worry them. And so when we look at this a little bit further, I want to go back to that risk assessment to start. One of the things that we do, you come in for a retirement tune-up financial review, sit down with an advisor on our team. Part of that conversation, it's not the only thing that we do, but a big part of it is understanding your risk exposure in the form of what is your tolerance, but what does that actually mean in numbers? Let's forget about the word association for a second. And we kind of go through this, and I want you to talk about this, Taco. We go through this, what do you want to be? And we use a number, like most firms, to factor what's your risk score, 1 to 10, 1 to 100. We use a number. It's a tool that most advisors use. What number do you want to be? What number are you actually with the current investments? And then based on what you need, your income goals, your objectives, what should you be?
Right.
So talk a little bit about what they were. Jake and Lisa came in, we do the assessment. What do they want to be and what are they? And what does that mean as far as numbers go?
Yeah. And so Jake and Lisa, where they wanted to be is in that middle, like I said, moderately conservative.
Mm-hmm.
What too many people we see is they focus on what that upside means of that risk tolerance, meaning Jake and Lisa want to be moderately conservative, which is, hey, we want to make 6 to 7%. That's kind of the vibe that they get with their advisors. If you can be moderately conservative, you should be able to average 6 to 7% over time.
Okay.
Where we take things a little different, and nobody wants to lose money. Nobody signs up, to lose money, but you have to understand how much risk you're taking for the potential reward, right? And so where you want to be educates you on, hey, if we see a worst case type of scenario over a 6-month period or a 12-month period, what would your portfolio do? How
specifically, what could it look like?
On the downside, what could your portfolio lose based on the risk that you're taking? Mm-hmm. And so where Jake and Lisa came in was a risk score of a 45 on a scale from 1 to 99.
That's what they want to be.
That's what they want to be.
Taking the assessment, that's their comfort zone.
And that's basically saying, hey, we're picking up the phone, and if we're down, 82,000 over a 6-month period, 160,000 roughly annually, we can't stomach that anymore. We're picking up the phone saying, Mr. Advisor, no more. We need to make some changes.
Yeah.
On the upside, there's 13% upside based on that risk score over a 6-month period, double that when you think annually, so 26%. So we have a wide range where they could lose, 16, they could gain 26%.
Yeah. I always tell people, when you're looking at this type of a test, we put it in the numbers. It's technically what we're talking about here is what's known as standard deviation. Yep. Take your risk tolerance and put it into a standard deviation. For Jake and Lisa, it was on the downside about -8 and 8.25%. We could stomach that. We wouldn't like it, but we go much beyond -8% over a 6-month period of time. We're going to start feeling the heartburn.
Yep.
We're going to start having that temptation to pick up the phone and jumping in and getting in the way of our success.
Yeah.
With decision making that's emotionally driven. On the flip side, it's plus 13%, but we only really want to make 6 or 7. We know we'd be successful there. So we established that first.
Yep. So the next piece is probably, so that's the initial, right? Hey, let's understand where you want to be. Next part's probably the most important. And what we see as part of our retirement tune-up financial review is, what does your current situation look like right now today? I always love giving the analogy, when you're in the mall, which I know nobody goes to the malls anymore, right? But you walk into a mall that you haven't been into in maybe ever, and you're trying to navigate to a certain store. What's the first thing that we all go look for? Mm-hmm. We look for the
you are here
X, right? This is what we're doing in the retirement tune-up financial review, is explaining to you, hey, what do you look like right now to see if you're on the right path. So Jake and Lisa, when we break down all of their current investments on how they're allocated, their risk score is a 73. Think speed limit, right? They're going way over the speed limit. They're going 30 miles per hour over their speed limit of 45.
Yep.
What does that mean? Now we're talking over a 6-month period, over 16% loss potential $160,000.
Mm-hmm.
Double that when you think annually. 32% on the downside in a worst case scenario, $320,000 of loss potential. Now, reward 24% on the upside
Over a 6-month period. Yep.
48% annually. So, 240,000 on the upside over the 6 month, 480 over the year. Right. And so there's just way more risk, obviously higher reward as well, but not in line with what their risk tolerance is. Right.
Yeah. We're bringing this up too, because if you've watched our channel before, you know how important we feel it is to have income planning as the foundation of your retirement plan. It drives everything. It drives how you take your distributions, where you take them from, how you should invest your money. But we don't often talk about the risk side in this capacity, because the next thing that we're going to do with Jake and Lisa here is we're going to go back to that foundation now. And we're going to start with, you got a $5,000 a month shortfall. You're currently using your $1 million portfolio to generate that for you. 6% withdrawal rate is what you mentioned earlier, which I don't care who you talk to, everyone's got a different opinion of this, depending on what your goals and objectives are. 6% could be fine. We're not going to give you a yellow or a green or a red light just because you got a higher than 4% annual withdrawal rate, which is what Wall Street says you should have.
Right.
But what we want to, I guess, motivate Jake and Lisa to do here is take that $5,000 shortfall and split it into two. What portion of that is basics? You got to have this income coming in to pay your bills. And what portion of that are you using for fun, for hobbies, for discretionary stuff?
Yep. And so what we found with this, and we do this with anybody, right? It's part of the budgeting side of the planning, was we determined of that 5,000 shortfall, 2,500 of it pays the bill. So essentially $6,000 per month gross is what they have to have coming in no matter what to pay the bills. The other 2,500 we've determined is discretionary. It's for all the fun things. It's the hobbies. It's the things that technically they could do without.
Yep.
If they absolutely had to.
They don't want to,
right?
But if they had to, they could tighten the belt. They could say, hey, we could take a break from these expenditures.
Exactly.
Let accounts recover, et cetera.
So Jet, walk through what, there's many different ways to build, an income plan and foundation, but let's talk in particular a strategy that could help weather a storm of a market volatility, or, again, the big R word.
Well, if you remember, Jake and Lisa are worried that a recession is going to wreck their retirement. And they could be right here. But one thing that they can do to all-weather proof their plan, in a sense, to that recessionary period is we're going to segregate assets here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take enough of the $1 million and use it to solve for that basic portion of their shortfall. Remember, 5,000 got split into 2,500 chunks. They need 2,500 of that coming in for basics. So we're gonna use investments that are much more conservative, even principal protected potentially, to generate the 2,500 a month that they absolutely have to have coming in. And then we're going to take the rest and we're going to use more risk-based traditional investments, growth-oriented, to produce the discretionary. So at a minimum, if a recession hits, they know the recession, the market downturn that comes with it potentially, won't affect that basic nearly as much, if at all. They may have to make some tough decisions on the 2,500 they need for discretionary, but that's going to be their advisor's ability, their ability to get on the same page and understand what they want to do there.
For sure. What I hear you, and we talk about this all the time, is purpose-based investing. Mm-hmm. Jake and Lisa need to define some purpose to their portfolio and draw that line somewhere down the assets and say, okay, what's going to generate the income for at least the necessities, and then what's remaining can obviously generate for the discretionary, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So before we jump into red light, yellow light, green light for Jake and Lisa, an awesome first step for you guys is to head over to riseinretirement.com. It's packed with valuable resources. You can click on the link in the description below. If you want to look at your situation under the red light, yellow light, green light, and you're ready to sign up for a retirement tune-up financial review, you can do that right there on riseinretirement.com.
Yep. Got a lot of free guides on there. Check out Ascend 360 Insider weekly video email series, comes to you every Thursday. You can sign up absolutely complimentary there. So hit riseinretirement.com. Jake and Lisa, we're giving them a green light. So this is easily, quickly, 6% withdrawal rate, $1 million portfolio. You know, it'd be quick for anyone to give them a yellow light. I'm giving them a green light here because all they have to do is purpose, like as you said eloquently, all they got to do is purpose how they generate portions of their income. If they're willing to take this flooring approach where they solve for that basic need, and they're willing to say, hey, you know what, in ugly times, we might have to not spend as much on the discretionary to allow our portfolio to recover, then I don't see any problem with what they have going on.
Yeah. And think back to the risk numbers, right? Mm-hmm. Goal would be on the income, the purpose-based income allocation, lower that risk score down, right? Focus more on cash flow and income, which allows us on the remaining dollars to be on that more opportunistic, aggressive side. So rather than just lumping an entire portfolio into one strategy, we're using purpose. And so maybe we have some, risk score of 1 to 30 for income purposes, and we can go 60, 70 on the more growth. Ideally, we can bring them back into where they want to be, 45 to 50 range. And I think that'll allow for some success.
Key takeaways today as we close up here. Mine is simply they have to be willing to change their approach a little bit versus just having the one big allocation and taking a withdrawal as needed and investing it all the same way. They got to get on the same page with their advisor as far as risk. They thought that they were in a much more conservative position than they actually were. And that is a very common occurrence when we do an assessment.
For sure. Key takeaway, and this is an exercise for you, is think about how much money you have saved right now today. And when you're done watching this video, you go look at your portfolio and you've got a 50% return. Will that change your lifestyle? Will it change your day-to-day living? Probably not, right? You're going to feel a little more confident. You're going to, maybe you can retire a year early or whatever it may be. You're going to feel good. Go back to what you have right now today and lose 30 or 40 or 50% if your risk score is too high. Will that change your lifestyle? We've seen it. Yes, it will. That's going to make you either have to work longer, go back to work, cut expenses, things of that nature. So make sure, key takeaway is that your risk allocation currently is in line with where you want to be.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel. Drop us a comment, share a scenario. Let us know what you thought of today's video. We'd love to hear more from you. That's all we have for today.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Rise in Retirement.